Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet that flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Halsey Live. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Tommy Carrigan, who I've been doing some shows with lately. It's been a lot of fun. Tommy, before we get started, man, let everyone know where they can find you. Links in the description as well.
Yes, primarily YouTube and Rumble and Spotify. Those are the three big ones. Tommy's podcast, TPC. Black logo, white font. Literally just says TPC. That's the one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask you about Spotify because everyone keeps saying I should be on Spotify, but I just haven't done it yet. So,
I mean, you should just, so I put it on everything. I put it on BitChute, Brady on Twitter as well. But I would do it because, sorry, I'm trying to turn off this fucking alarm.
My
phone's beeping around like right now. Yeah, go on Spotify. I mean, the growth is, it's kind of disappointing. It seems mostly linear as somebody that's doing this for 6 years. Rumble and YouTube are the only two that get close to exponential growth. The podcast is 6 years old tomorrow. You'd think I'd have like a better grasp on this. It's really, I don't have like an answer, man. I think it's just, I have no idea. It's like, how do you get to 80 years old? I don't know. Don't die. Like that's kind of my advice on how do you grow it? Don't die and keep uploading. I have no other answer to it.
So according to the Network Contagion Research Institute, what you use are foreign bot farms and outrage porn, and then you can grow really fast.
I should put an asterisk. You have to have a soul and or dignity. Right? There's a lot of things I could have done a long time ago that I refuse to do. I refuse to do like ambush journalism. I refuse to make outright retarded thumbnails. I refuse to do like clickbait title. Break it, you'll never. Because I personally just feel like an old prostitute if I do that. It's just a horrible feeling, and I just don't want to. So that's
what else is a terrible feeling? When my background's in investigation to begin with. And we spent over a year, me, 4 journalists, 2 computer analysts, and a coder spent over a year researching something and trying to break this story, and we broke it and nobody gave a shit. Spent like $100,000 and nobody cared.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hunted down and took like 6 months of snaking through to get in touch with Dr. Ken Alabek, who is the head of the Soviet Union's bioweapon program, biopreparation.
Damn.
He was smuggled to the U.S. right before the Soviet Union fell by the CIA. He and his family, taught the head guy, and for his reputation, he didn't want to do this. It's the Soviet Union. They put a gun to your head and say, "Hey, you're the best doctor. You're making weapons."
I'm pretty sure they talked about him in there was a book called Saddam's Bomb Maker about building bombs in Iraq, but with obviously a lot of Russian help. I'm pretty sure he was mentioned in it.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was. And another book, Biohazard. I had him on, like, in middle of 2021, and he was definitively COVID's a bioweapon. I think the show still hasn't broken 1,000 views. So my point is like, yeah, man, do the right thing that you know is the right thing, but certainly don't hang your hat on like justice or karma working. Well, I guess it does in the long run. Let me back that up. I think in the long run it does. You meet the right people. You can't fake street cred. You can't fake, rapport or reputation. And even if you can, it'll eventually, the facade will break.
Yep.
I think one of the reasons why the show goes on and I'm able to get guests is because people don't have like a one-off experience with me. They've now known me for years, and they're like, he's never once, fucked me or. Sorry, can I swear?
We curse on this channel all the fucking time.
Okay, all right. I always have to remember that I'm not on my show. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we say whatever the fuck we want here.
Beautiful. Well, some people again really can't say that, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's so I guess you could grow your show a lot more. But it's awful. I mean, I will say, so tomorrow I'm having on for the 60th anniversary. I've had him on 5 times before over the years. Is Charlie Duke. He's 90 years old. He was the youngest man to ever walk on the moon, one of 3 men alive who was from the Apollo program. And last week, I think he went on a pretty big podcast, Danny Jones, who I've never listened to. And I don't know anything about him. I'm not trying to shit on him. He has a huge platform, so he's figured out something. But he had on Charlie Duke with like a moon landing hoaxer, which is fine. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But it's very clear that Mr. Duke was not informed. And it was going around all last Friday on Twitter. People are like, dude, I've been watching your podcast for years. I'm never watching it. This was disgusting. And number one, it's just, and by the way, he's 90 years old. He's still sharp as a tack. But there's a general like, hey man, just first and foremost, like, respect your elders, and number two, like, he wasn't informed. Don't ever do that. And I saw that, and it tore my guts out because I've got to know him over the years, and he's the sweetest man in the world. And so my point is there are definitely things you can do to get clickbait. But I think even if it works immediately, there's a downside. In this episode, the downside was immediate. So no, you can do it. Bot farm, sell your soul thumbnails, but
I was talking about this with James Lindsay earlier in the week, or actually it was just yesterday. But we were discussing this, and I said that Tim Pool is really upset with like Candace Owens and a couple of the other ones. He's been freaking out all over the place, and I postured that Tim Pool worked his ass off to get, even if you don't like the guy, you have to admit he put in the work. Like
he's been in it for years.
Since Occupy Wall Street, he puts in like 2-3 hours a day minimum making content.
Yeah.
So he built his audience the right way. And then you get someone like Candace who comes in with Bridget McCrone is a man, and the CIA killed Charlie and all this, and she gets the views and he gets the bullets. You know what I'm saying? People come to him and shoot at him.
I totally feel that. I was gonna say I don't like Tim Pool, but I realized I don't know anything about him, and it's just kind of, I guess, friends in my orbit make fun of him, so I make fun of him. But I realized I did the same thing with Charlie Kirk. I never knew. I kind of looked at Charlie Kirk as like a caricature of like a young conservative kind of thing. I'm a conservative guy. I don't even disagree with him, but I kind of looked at him as like a dweeb kind of guy. And after he was killed, I just saw clips of him, and I'm like, yeah, man, like him or not, that dude was buttoned up, put in the work. You don't have to. And I'm realizing now that's as much as I know about Tim Pool. I'm sure if I sat down and actually watched him for an hour, I'd agree with him or not, you'd be like, this is a dude putting out content and doing journalism. And he's been doing it, since what, 08, 09?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you see, I'm just a news junkie, so he doesn't like have any hot takes. Like he's very middle of the road on almost everything, and so like whenever I have tuned into him, for some reason the YouTube algorithm has decided that him and that guy that does the Tomorrow Show to the Oliver on HBO, what's his name?
John Oliver.
John Oliver. For some reason, YouTube has decided that John Oliver and Tim Pool are my favorite two podcasts on earth. Because no matter what I watch, the next recommended video is from one of the two of them. You know, but every time I watch them, I just don't learn anything. So it's like I'm not going to spend my time listening to something if I'm not going to, learn anything new.
Me neither. And again, I know next to nothing about him. So I'm realizing, just using Charlie Carrigan as an example, I know next to nothing. What I do know is he's been at it for, 16, 17 years. Yeah, he's middle of the road. I mean, but again, hey, that's free will. That's like, that part isn't bad. You're allowed to be far left. Like that, you are allowed to do that. In terms of like what he does, and I mean, every day on Rumble when I start my game stream, it's on the front page of Rumble, and it's like it or not, dude's doing it every day, and it's, but I totally get when you see someone like Candace Owens who's doing this stuff. But back to the karma point, she may get the immediate, relatively immediate, and what she's in the last year or so. It'll crash and burn. It's
I heard two interesting things about this recently. One, I talked to a friend and he suggested this, and I kind of thought to myself, wow, I didn't think of that. I wonder why. But in order to be found guilty of libel, you have to either show that you willingly spread false information or that you acted in an utter disregard for the truth, right? And what she's doing now proves that she doesn't have any idea what the truth is. She just blabs her mouth about everything. This might be so she can go into court and say, I didn't act with disregard for the truth. I act on tips. I act on all tips. And just show 2 hours of her crazy. And what court would disagree that she didn't act in willful disregard of the truth? She doesn't know what the truth is.
Sure. So within that system, that's a great legal excuse. But let's look at the system outside of that. Her reputation, her as a content creator, it's imploded. Whatever. So
that's what I was going to get to next. There's a content maker named Tree of Life, right? It's a little crazy, a lot of fun though. I've known her for years. She told me in 2019 because Candace had the way she came onto the scene was with a website called Social Autopsy, which was basically a doxing site for conservatives. Like she just doxed the hell out of anyone on the right, even kids, and that she doxed Tree of Life, and Tree of Life was a police officer. Like she's arrested people for murder and shit. Like she doesn't need her home address put online, for whatever reason. But I talked to her about it because I said I don't find Candace interesting. Like it didn't matter what she was talking about. I don't find her interesting. And she said to me, she goes, you're going to see this over and over with her and other people too, but with her it's very pronounced. And since then I started calling it the Candace the attempt, right? What she does is this. When something's coming up that could potentially make her look like she's either bad or inferior in some way, she causes a huge hubbub about something else beforehand, so when it happens, she can blame it on them, right? Mm-hmm. And the most profound time was with Kanye. When Kanye, he went to see her, and then a couple days later started freaking out about how awesome Hitler is and all of that. And then Candace released a letter from Chase Manhattan saying that Kanye had lost his bank account. And of course, they both were, it's because he criticized Jews, he lost his bank account. The part they didn't tell you, and Chase Manhattan fully acknowledged this happened. Kanye marched into the corporate offices of Chase Manhattan and demanded to see Jamie Dimon, the CEO, which presidents don't do that, right? But he did.
And I guess Wi-Fi will have you fucking shocked.
Right. So I guess he was making such a ruckus that Jamie Dimon came out and said, what on earth do you want? And he said, I want a $4 billion investment fund that I'm in complete control of from Chase, or I'm taking my money out. Right? And the next day they sent him a letter telling him to go fuck himself 6 ways to sideways, and he has 30 days to get his money out. Right? And realizing how embarrassing that would be, they freaked out and started claiming Hitler was a god, and then said, it's because he criticized Jews, he lost his bank account. And the most noticeable thing was when Candace released the evidence, the receipt of the letter saying that he lost his bank account, she photoshopped the date off of it. So you couldn't see that it happened long before he ever did it. She did the same with the Daily Wire because she knew how much they offered Steven Crowder, and she knew she was coming up on her contract, and they weren't going to offer her close to that. So if she couldn't accept the contract, she had to make a beef with Ben Shapiro. So she left because of ideological reasons, not because they didn't think she was worth the money.
That's how I tend to look at things, is just kind of like fractal systems. Like, there are things you can get away with, and on larger and larger timelines, the arc comes back to you. And yep. I mean, even and the biggest arc is, you know, people that give their lives, right? Let's say, you know, my great uncle, he survived, but none of his friends did. He's my grandfather's brother, who was 18 on D-Day, Omaha Beach. A lot of those guys made a sacrifice. And you could say, well, wait, where's the arc? Well, I believe in God, and I believe in an afterlife, and I think that those who truly do the right thing, you know, be courageous despite fear, all that stuff, I think the arc goes beyond this life. So I think it's also within this, you know, and in college you can get away with you know, how many times can you get away with cheating? Or you can get when I was at the University of Georgia, all the frat kids had the answers to all the OChem tests, and it's like, you can get away with it. No, you are absolutely skirting the system. Eventually, you have to take the MCAT, and even if you're able to cheat on that, eventually you're going to be in med. There is a point where the boomerang comes back, and I don't know, however far you can bullshit it, you might eventually, you're going to get to a point where, if everything works out for the best, you're going to be standing there, someone's going to be calling you surgeon, and you're going to go, I have no idea what I'm doing. It eventually comes back. And I think that, and that is a system within this. Okay, so you have college and outer, you could college med school, outer, you could say college med school residency, outer college med school, and it goes on and on. I think this life is but a fractal within a fractal. So again, what she's doing, yeah, sure. Great way to get away with, just as a psychopath. If this is a video game and your job is to get away, that's how I try to look at things. Is like, I think of how detached I am when I play video games. You're playing with your best friend. You're shooting him in the face. It's clearly not reality. Yeah, as a video game, that's what I would do. You don't Photoshop it out, plan it, say it's the Jews. Hey, it's a great tactic. I think it comes back, and I don't even think this is something that's like comes back in the next life. I think we're seeing it by virtue of the fact that you and I are both, you know, you and I have talked a handful of times. No notes, no nothing. We both come into this, and we're both like, yeah, no, Candace is a fucking retard grifter. That right there to me is the sort of, you're seeing the shockwave hit, right? So she'll run it for a while. She'll probably get away with it for, you know, months or years. It's gonna come back.
See, I'm so jealous. When I hear people talk about playing video games, I get jealous. I have really shitty hand-eye coordination. So when I decide I want to do something, I have to train 10 times harder. Like when I decided I wanted to shoot competition, I had to put in like hours of work more than other people because I have to train my hands to work right. Because as I said, I have really shitty hand-eye coordination. Same thing when I got into blacksmithing. It took me a lot longer to get good than it would normally another one. And I haven't been able to invest in learning the video games. So I'm just terrible at all of them.
Dude, I've been a console head my whole life. Actually, a fan of the show. Bought me a gaming computer about 5 years ago on a blog. He's like, dude, come game with us. We love your podcast. I was like, you send me a fucking gaming PC, I'll get rid of I'll stop being a console cuck. He was drunk as fuck. Send me a gaming. I was like, holy shit. It is just on terms of hand-eye coordination. You are infinitely better using a mouse and keyboard, because I'm the same way. I'm horrible in hand-eye coordination. So yeah, man, try like keyboard mouse. A lot better.
Yeah, well, now at this point in my life, like I have no time to like do anything. So it's like if I decided to like commit to gaming at this point, like I'd probably have to let like either work or podcasts.
I was gonna say, forget you're an adult with a family. I'm 35. I'm like, dude, just sink 8 hours in it. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah,
but you know what I've been having a lot of fun with? I wanted to tell you about this because you were kind of like a bit instrumental in this, so I wanted to give you some credit. Right, I've been doing this a long time. I've had my podcast since 2017, right? Jeez. And I've taken a year or two off a couple times. Life just got hectic, and it was just too much. And coming back this time, there's this kind of like, me and Tom have been friends since I first started podcasting, right? But like that universe of like the crypto rich, E.M. Burlingham, like all these people, what's his name? Altman, all of them, right? Yeah. Like you guys weren't in my universe, and now like I have all these different shows, and people start talking, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, Tommy was just talking about that last week. Oh, wait a minute. EM talks about that all the time. And I'm like linking together all these people. And it's like, it's fun, you know?
In terms of it being a video game, building the podcast this is the flip side. It's terrifying. It's demoralizing. It's hard to make money on it. And you hate everyone else because they're all grifters. The upside, though, is, man, it's the most satisfying, rewarding thing when you can start to click things and build your own network. And you're like, oh, it's also like the best game ever. It's terrifying, but it's also like the best video game ever.
So I have the gift of gab. Like if we start talking, I could talk for 10 hours, no problem. But I don't particularly like doing streams on my own because I wind up saying like, you know what I'm saying? Or I like stutter because like I'm just wondering what people are thinking about what I'm saying. I like the pushback. So about a year into podcasting, I got this co-host. He was a comedian that used to dress up like Trump and do this whole, he was a riot too. Like not in a bad way. He loved Trump. But we did a show together, and it went on for like 8.5 hours. And I was like, you know what, we should. And I looked at my subscriber count. It went up like 200 that day, which like I never had that much of a jump in a day. I was like, you know, we should try that again. And it went on for 2 years. We did about 8 hours a night every day except the Sabbath. And it was like I got tons of subs. Like I got up to like 3,000 subs over that time. Like, you know, we were just having a blast. And I never looked at it as work. Like, I never was like, fuck, I have to go do the podcast now.
Yeah.
You know, like, I looked forward to it. To the point where my kids were like, I think you enjoy going on your podcast more than you enjoy hanging out with us. Like, you're fucking sleeping at that time anyway. Shut up.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that by, let's say, Thursday, tomorrow. But around the end of the week, I start hitting a point of, like, I never want to do a podcast again.
Yeah.
And I mean, what I mean by the end, I mean 52 weeks out of the year, 6 years straight. By the end, I'm like, I don't fucking want to do this show anymore. I take a day off, I sleep in. By the second day off, I start going like, I want to get back to it. I want to start. It's absolutely work. Nothing will ever be not work.
Mm-hmm.
But man, as far as work goes, it's the least worky work.
Well, I'm also very lucky because I think I've told you this. Up until November of last year, I was doing, I do consulting. I build security protocols and train like agents and all of that for religious institutions for security. It's kind of like open anti-terror work. And my contracts are for 3 years, right? Because I can't do the job in less than 3 years. It's just not possible. So my contract had just come to an end. And I was just about to start reaching out to like about 20 different institutions that were coming to me for my next contract. And I was talking to this guy, and he said, "Oh, I heard you're into blacksmithing." I said, "Yeah, I'm really into it." And he goes, "Well, I really rich guy too." And he said, I want an heirloom. Like I want to use, like, I want to give you materials. I want to give you this. And I want an heirloom, like a dagger that I can pass on to my kids and they can pass it on. That'll be in the family for generations. I said, well, I can do that. So sat down with CAD, drew up a design for him, told him how I would do it. And I was like, but listen, it's a lot of work. I was like, so it's going to cost you. It's going to probably be like, 12, 15 grand. He's like, oh, that money doesn't matter. Like, I just want it to be perfect. It was an amazing experience. Took me 2 months. I had a blast. He was more than happy with it. He told everyone he knew about it. And now I'm booked for a year, like at least. I probably can book. And I am telling everybody, like, look, you're going to have to wait a year before I can even put you on the schedule. And I can only work 3 hours a day. Like, after that, my arms turn to jello. Anyone's would. You can only swing a 25-pound hammer for so long. So it's like people say, like, oh, you sit on Spaces and you do your podcast all the time. I'm like, because my job ends at like 8 in the morning. Like, I work from 5 to 8 in the morning and I'm basically done. Yeah. Like, I can jump up and do like little detail stuff, but I can't like actually do the hard work every day that many hours. I said, because even if I tried to, I would probably accomplish more, but the quality would go down and people are paying me a premium for the quality. So it's like, I'm very gifted because, like, obviously that could all fall apart tomorrow. Someone could, I could run out of clients and have to go back to work or whatever. But it's very fun right now, especially being in such interesting times, that I have the time to like really dedicate to the show.
I find that with podcasting early on, I think I equated like total time with effort. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, well, a show's only an hour. And it's like a good self-hating Irish Catholic. I'm like, I should be working more. And yeah, I mean, no, I cranked out for like the first couple of years. I think I was doing like 350 shows a year. And then I got to a point where I was like, an hour good show and do 200 a year or 250 is so much better. And so even now, I'm like, I just fully give it I'm like, do one and do it very well. Be as present as you can. Be just ready to rock. Don't be worried about, I can't speak too much. I have another show after this. Like, I have one show where I've probably said it to you, say it to everyone. It's 8 hours of sleep, hit the gym for 30 minutes, shower, and then 20 minutes meditating, 10 minutes praying, hit it and just go and just be entirely here. And it's 60 minutes. And sprint the 60 minutes and just be the best you can be. And then when it's finished, like, my brain turns to every single day for about an hour after the podcast. I just feel retarded, and then it slowly goes away. And then so kind of like you're saying, it's like when I do the game stream, it's like, the game stream requires nothing of me. I'm not like a gamer that I should clarify. The game stream is a stream of me playing video games. It is not like welcome chat, and it's not today we're gonna try. No. It is me playing video games. I'll get up in the middle for 20 minutes and make dinner. I'll sit there and scroll on my phone. I will literally leave, go get groceries. Like, so that's if it's like, well, how do you do that? It's like, it's not work. The latter half, it's yeah.
Well, I know you've said this that bringing God into your life was a very important thing, because we had spoken about it before, and I found I don't know how similar our stories are, but I grew up in like a non-religious house. My mom's Jewish. My dad was raised Catholic. He like kind of converted, but not really. Like, he just did it for like so we wouldn't be confused. But like I never met someone who kept the Sabbath until I was in my 20s. Like, we never did anything religious. I was 100% secular. And then I moved into a more religious like lifestyle, and I found God, and it all really worked out for me. And I find that with the podcast that I do, God steps in all the time. Like I was big in the debate scene for a while, right? And this was probably, I would say, about 6 months ago. Someone convinced me to do a debate with one of these groypers, right? Which I usually refuse to do. I'm not going to argue with retards, right? But I agreed to do it, and we were there, and I said, listen, but I don't want this to just be a case of all you're going to do is try to bring up every conspiracy theory that's ever existed and tell me to debunk it, and as soon as I don't know what you're talking about, you'll go, see, I won. So he sent me a list, and he said he wants to talk about in the Holocaust that the Red Cross visited Theresienstadt and said that, at most 230,000 people died, right? Just 2 weeks before that, my great grandfather was in Theresienstadt, right? And back then, he was a baker, and he kept a scrapbook because they would give him a staff, and then like half his staff would disappear every week. They would be sent either to Auschwitz or somewhere else. And so he started telling people, like, look, I don't know where they're taking everyone. I don't know what's going on, but if I get out, give me something that has your name on it. So if I get out, I can at least tell people at this date and time you were here. So if they have to find you or something, they can. And he got out. He had this whole scrapbook with hundreds of names in it, right? And he was destroyed after the war. Like, he wasn't mentally really there anymore. And my grandfather and my grandmother, they had this scrapbook, but they just considered it like kind of a family heirloom, right? And then when my grandmother passed, my mom got it. And she was looking at it, and she says, I want to keep it in the family because it's, it's our family, but it's falling apart. Like, it's really old. And so if I don't like give this to someone, whatever's in it might get lost. So they contacted the Holocaust Museum, who sent a courier, and they were looking at it, and they found two things. One, 200 names in that book had never been seen or heard by them before. So here we are in 2024, and they found 200 names that they've never been on their radar before. So when people say, no, they revised the number down, it's like, no, please question the 6 million. I bet you the number goes up.
Sure.
And then right after that, they sent me an email, and they said, we found out something very interesting from your grandfather's scrapbook.
More of a trauma response than anything. Got really into psychedelics as well. More of a trauma response than anything. Got really into psychedelics as well. So it was a combination. And then also decided not to go to med school after I got accepted. So it was this like existential crisis of
I did the same with law school, by the way. I got into NYU, I got into Yale, and I got waitlisted at Harvard. And then like a month before they were going to start, I decided not to do it.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of friends that are like, I was pre-med. I'm like, no. I got accepted. Ace the MCAT, 15,000 applicants. I always brag about it. 15,000 applicants to the University of Miami. 100 got in. I was one of them. I got accepted, and it was like, this isn't for me. Then lost my brother to suicide like that week, and then also as like, I was like, just a Boy Scout in college. All I did was study. I also got into, LSD and mushrooms. Mostly, I was just trying to make sense of what happened to my brother. So, those three things combined, well, at first it led to just the absolute spiral down to depression and suicidal thoughts, which I feel like is probably expected. But slowly, very slowly came back and started the podcast in December 2019, almost 2020. And actually, Charlie Duke, the Apollo astronaut, he's the one that got me back into God. It's because I was talking to him, and this was in summer 2020, still living at home with my parents. And whether it was cockiness or foresight, I don't know which one it is. But I said to him, I was like, when I put my mind to get into med school, I eventually did it. But I knew from the get-go I was going to achieve it. So I was like, right now, it's like July 2020. I'm like, I know I'm going to succeed at this podcast. And I know it's going to give me everything that I think I want. And I know that it won't be enough. It'll be fun. You'll get money, you'll get women, you'll get cars. I've kind of gotten money. I've not gotten women or cars. I'm still expecting it.
Yeah.
But even that, I know it. I want it, but I also know it won't fill me. And so I asked him, I was like, what about you? And I hadn't read his book. I knew nothing about his background other than he was an Apollo astronaut. He was like, well, you go into the Air Force, the best thing ever, best goal ever is to become a pilot. The thing after that is to become a test pilot, because now you're pushing new shit where there's no lessons. They go, we don't know. Right. You're like, oh wow, this is the cutting edge. And then, mind you, this is 50s, 60s. After that was like the gold medal was like, or you can go to space. We don't even know what the fuck happens up there.
Right.
And then what's after that? Walking on a celestial body. He's like, I went higher than anyone could ever want. And I came back and was empty. And he goes down this whole thing of, he got really into making money. He was like a course distributor, made like millions, worked on the space shuttle. It all meant nothing to him. That God found Christ. He's a Christian. And he goes, the only thing better than walking on the moon is walking with Christ. And I talked to him a little bit afterwards. And I think what got me is he didn't shove it down my throat. He just told me, he was like, as a scientist, pre-med astronaut, he was being very kind to lumping me in with him. He was like, just treat it like a variable. During your meditation, which I told him about, he was like, simply ask God to come into your heart. He goes like, just try it. What do you have to lose? There was no, Southern Baptist, you are going to hell. He was like, try it. Try it. Yeah, and I can now run my mouth for an hour about every little thing since then. Just the Swiss watch synchronicity of everything. And that actually kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier about the whole don't sell your soul, don't do clickbait, I actually believe I look at that and I go, this is for God. Like, God is my audience. And he knows if I'm doing something immoral or unethical or dishonest. And the longer I do the right thing in any manifestation that comes about, I find that the hand of God, when you least expect it, it'll come in and it'll nudge you back into place. So, like you, no, it comes through. It comes.
So
through.
I have a crazy story like that too. I love this shit. So when I graduated with my MBA, right, I got a phenomenal job. I was making like $300,000 a year. It was my second month on the job. And I started like just questioning what is Judaism about, because I was curious, more than anything, just because I grew up with like no sense of religion whatsoever. So I started looking into it, and I went to my best friend who had spent some time in Israel, and I was like, maybe I should go over there and check it out, like just see the places where, the forefathers walked and stuff. And he's like, no, you should go over there, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, like I'm ever actually going to go over there. So he calls me the next day, and he goes, you wouldn't believe it. There's a plan that a group that just came out, they're giving grants for people to go live in Israel for 2 years. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And I said, how much? And he said, you just tell them how much you need, and they'll give you this grant, because they want to, follow you guys around and talk to you and all this. I was like, yeah, it's a little weird. But so I said, you know what? I'll fill out the application. What's the worst that can happen? So I filled it out and said I need $50,000 if I'm going to go there for 2 years, right? Because I could probably find a way to survive on that until I can learn the language and find work and all of that. So they got in touch with me a month later. They were like, "You've been approved, but only for $5,000." And I was like, "Why?" And they said, "That's all the money we have. That's all we're giving anybody that wants to go. It doesn't matter." And I was like, "Well, going from like a couple $100,000 a year to $5,000 is a little tough. I don't know if I can do it." And I said, "How long do I got to make the decision?" They said, "Oh, 24 hours. If you don't tell us by tomorrow, we have 50 other people that applied." So I was like thinking, I'm like, should I? Yeah, why not? I'm pretty impulsive to begin with. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go there for 2 years and learn about all of this. But I still had that God chapter missing, right? Like I knew something was out there. I knew something was good with it. I didn't get it. And my mom has this friend of hers like forever. This guy was a jeweler in New York City, and she told him about this whole, because she was ready to murder me that I left this job to get ready to go to Israel, right? And so she said to him, because he's Israeli, and she said, he said, "Send him to me. I want to talk to him." So getting me to New York City is like not easy. I hate New York City, like more than you can possibly imagine. So I only go there if I absolutely have to. My mom convinced me to go, and this guy sat me down. He's like, "You're going to find it's such a magical place. It's such this and such that." And I said, "Yeah, but it's a little tough for me," because he was religious. And I said, "I don't really believe in God all that much. Like, I'm not even really, I think something's out there. I just don't know what. And like, I've never learned any of this stuff or whatever." And he goes, "Let me show you something." He took down the Torah, the Old Testament. And he said, "It says here that in order for an animal to be kosher," and it says this word for word, right? I am paraphrasing a tiny bit. But it says, in order for an animal to be considered kosher to eat, it has to have cloven hooves and chew its cud, right? And then it says, these are the animals that have chew its cud, but do not have cloven hooves. And it lists the animals. And then it says, and there's one animal on the planet that has cloven hooves and doesn't chew its cud, right? And that's the pig. And it says this word for word. And I was like, "Okay, what's your point?" And he goes, "How did a group in the desert thousands of years ago know that on the entire planet, these were the only animals that existed that had the one quality and not the other, and the one quality and not the other? And since then, none have ever been found other than the ones listed in the Bible." And I went, "That is a little crazy." And he said, "Only God can write that. Only God could know that." And it was like this like watershed moment for me. I was like, "Wait a minute, there's something to this. Like, this doesn't just require me to take a blind leap of faith. Like, this is some solid evidence here, which is like what I was looking for." And it just like started the roller coaster,
And no, and I get that too. Sometimes we just see like a scripture or a quote or something.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that you're like, how the fuck is that applicable now?
Yep.
But it's just perfection. But I've also, and this is in my own, subjective, flawed human mind, I've kind of come to conclude, again, in my own subjective universe, that if you don't want to believe, you won't.
Sure.
And you just won't. It doesn't mean that you have to feel the pull of God, but I think at the very least, because even when I was an atheist, I always said this, and I meant it. I wanted God to be real. I just didn't believe he was there.
Right.
And the more I kind of dug down into that, I'm like, no, I don't think I actually want him to be real. Not because I have like nefarious intent. There's something, I don't know. I like the certainty of it's like, why do autistic people like trains? And it's like they stay on the exact path and they show up at the right time. Like, there's no variables. And it's like,
which is funny because if you hear it, there's a train going by right now. I live on train tracks. Right as you said that, I heard a train bell.
There you go, hand of God. And but like, then when I finally actually tried in 2020, I realized that there was part of me that was open to going, maybe I don't know the answer. Mm-hmm. Maybe I don't have it all figured out. And instead of being scary of like, well, then I'm in this foggy mystery world. No, all of a sudden it came to like, yeah, man, what's that feeling of a big brother? What's the feeling of dad or grandpa? Mm-hmm. Hey, they probably don't. Maybe they don't know it all either, but you know that they're guiding you and helping you. And that's when I opened up to maybe there is more, and mm-hmm. maybe, and what would, and then the quote, "You will know them by their fruits." Well, if the thing I'm following slowly leads me to like do bad things, I'm like, well, I don't really feel good about stabbing that woman, but I guess this Moloch said it was for the right thing. This doesn't feel good. I look at what are all the things that this awakening has brought me towards, just let's remove from the podcast just broadest terms:
Mm-hmm.
selflessness, sacrifice, try to put yourself in their shoes, forgive others even though you don't want to, remember all the people that have forgiven you, faith that it will work out, don't waver when the easy way out seems possible, stand up even if you're scared. I'm like, these are all positive things. Like, not mostly 100% across the board, they all lead to that. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
oh wow, I'm becoming like the best version of myself.
So I was the same way. Like people had told me before I left, they were like, "Listen, you're going to meet some rabbis there that are going to blow your mind, but just keep an open mind." And I was thinking, like, yeah, but I still don't like fully believe that, like, in all of this. And so I met this rabbi at a coffee shop, funny enough, and we were just sitting there talking, and he said he asked me, he said, like, "Well, what's your issue with God?" I said, "Well, I hear people like my parents and people like I know lots of secular Jews out there, and they all say the same thing. As long as I'm a good person, I don't think God cares about what I eat or what I do on a Saturday or any of that." And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, that doesn't make sense to me. If there's a God, I can absolutely believe that his rules wouldn't make sense to me. Like, how would I ever be on the same level as God? Like, if God says don't do this, I would assume he knows a lot more about the world than I do. So even if it doesn't make sense to me, it makes sense that I wouldn't understand it." I said, "My issue is when I don't have a problem. You tell me not to work on a Saturday because that's what God wants. I don't work on a Saturday. My issue is when I see all the horrid shit that goes on in this world, I have trouble believing there is a God." And he goes, "That's why you're different than most people." And he said, "I just want you to ponder a question." He said, "We'll meet." He gave me his number. He said, "We'll meet up next week, but I want you to spend the week thinking about this." And he again they always take out the Bible, right? And he goes to the first sentence. In the beginning, there was heaven and earth, right? God created heaven and earth. And he said, "I just want you to think about that God spoke and everything came to be." Right? Just the sound of God's voice, everything came to be. And I said, "Well," and he goes, "No, I don't want to hear what you think about it right now. Just think about it." And like for a week, I'm like looking up at the heavens and all this, and I'm like, I'm seeing light that's supposedly, 9 billion light years away. Like, the furthest we've gotten is the moon. And there are planets in our solar system that we'll probably never see. And if we do, it won't be in my lifetime. Like, and the slightest mention of God and everything came to be. And then, obviously that's a leap of faith thing. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove this guy wrong, because I'm going to prove that all of this still could have happened if there wasn't a God. And the more I thought about it, I just couldn't do it. I was like, everything doesn't make sense. And then finally he said, "So what would you do if I said that the Big Bang started everything?" I'd say, "If you can tell me what happened 3 seconds before it, where everything came from, I'll be an atheist for the rest of my life." And no one has been able to answer that question for me since. Like, okay, everything condensed and exploded. 3 seconds before that, what happened? Oh, that's infinity. No, that doesn't work. Like,
There's a great quote of going, the Big Bang is the atheist just gone, all right, if you get miracles, we get one. You get all these, and it's like, no, man, that's kind of where I look. And there's another one of the mega minds of the 1900s. I don't know, Planck or Bohr or Einstein, one of them, said the first sip of science turns you into an atheist, but the last sip at the bottom of the goblet is where you find God. And it really, and people are like, well, how do you make it square that there's science? And I'm like, to me, like, science is just like, we're mapping out the law. Like, there is lawful order. It's just, it's what's coded in the game. If you make a video, one game I play is like Nuclear Options, kind of like a flight sim, blowing each other up. There are limits. Like, this plane can go, just past the speed of sound. Here's the altitude. But like, you can go in and change it. You can make the starting speed Mach 5. Like, it's funny. You can make a tank fly at the speed of sound. But that's just, you're just changing the. So I'm like, so all of that says to me is like, that's just the lawful order. Like, there is lawful order. There doesn't even have to be. But God was just like, yeah, I don't think God's married to like the mass of a proton. He's like, yeah, I just chose that. Like, like, I don't know. He's like, you're missing the plot.
Yep.
It's playing the best open world video game ever, and you're going, why did they use that color of gray for the clouds? It's like, play the game. What the fuck are you looking at, you idiot? Like, it's play the game, play the plot, do the character development, the mystery, the uncertainty. you're angry. You're like, well, how come they use this shade of green for the leaves? And it's like, yeah, man, I don't know, because it had to be a shade. I don't what it's
Mm-hmm.
that's. But again, the leap of faith thing is, so you could say, well, ultimately, are we not? Maybe we just don't know what happened for the Big Bang. No, absolutely, but I think it ultimately comes down to there's just a leap of faith where I go, I think he's there. I know he's there. You can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. I don't. But it ultimately does come down to that one thing that is not scientific. It's that last, you just, we'll fudge the numbers,
Yep.
I don't have enough money, but somehow my grandma just was able to just produce $20. Like, I don't know. And you might say, well, that's not enough for me. That's fine. You might be on your own journey. I have no idea. But that's how I look at it. It's like, I think it ultimately comes down to, it is that last, then you jump. That's kind of how I feel.
So I got a rabbi and a physicist. This is the beginning of a story, not a joke, right? The physicist's name always gets by me. I always forget it, and I'm not going to do him any justice trying to remember it. But his research is pretty crazy. I'm a math nerd. I love this stuff. So his research basically shows that the journey from inorganic matter to matter, in terms of evolution, can be explained by entropy. Right, that everything in the universe is there to dissipate energy. That energy is contained, and the world, the universe, will always create more efficient ways to disperse energy. Right, therefore leading to single-celled organisms, therefore leading to multi-celled organisms, and on and on and on and on.
They're thermodynamically, like,
Right.
That's how they explain evolution. Yeah.
So this guy is an Orthodox Jew, though, right? And one of the interviews he did that I saw, they said, yeah, but how do you square this, that you're figuring out the ideas of evolution and the creation of the universe, but you're religious and you believe in God? He says this confirms God. This doesn't dispel him, because how could a person, like, other than a God, create all of these systems in a row? Like you're saying, they spontaneously happen. He's like, drop a cup on the ground and tell me which way the pieces are going to shatter 10 times in a row. It's, you can't predict stuff like that. There's too much order in it. And then the same, in the same vein, right? Oh, where was I going with this real quick? It was a rabbi and
A physicist.
and a physicist. So, that's what it was. So I was talking to this big rabbi. I'm still friends with him. I just talked to him this morning. And we were talking, and I said, it's really cool too how science keeps proving that they were right even back then. Like right now, we know that we're not supposed to eat pork because pork has trichinosis in it, and if you don't cook pork well, you get sick and die, which was a huge problem back then. And he goes, "You're looking at it the wrong way." He said, "We've always known that eating pork is wrong. Now science is just confirming we were right 3,000 years ago." And I'm like, that's an interesting way to put it. Like, I never thought, like, because I constantly say, well, science proves this all the time, that this is right or this is right. And he's like, it's like, no, we knew that already. It was already spelled out that we shouldn't eat pork. The fact they found a reason why, like, eating pork is wrong doesn't mean that, the Bible confirms their science. It means that, okay, 3,000 years ago, we didn't need an explanation. They just told us not to do it. Now, as we get more and more scientific, we realize the explanations were there all along. It's just took us this long to figure it out, but we've always known it. It's right there in the Bible. And it's like, wow, that happens so much now, where I think, like, someone says to me, oh, science just confirmed this. Or there was a book called Gold of the Exodus that they claim they found the pathway the Hebrews took out of Egypt, and like where Mount Sinai is, and all of this. And in the book, even he says something like that. He says the path out of Egypt has always been there. We're just confirming that this was or wasn't, or may not have been. But in the end, the path was still there. Like, we know it is. It's in the Bible. And it was like, it's so mind blowing for me to contemplate these things. Like, I love it.
The analogy I've always used over the years is Eastern medicine. They knew to eat this leaf, and that made the elders wise. And 3 millennia later, it's like, oh, it's ginkgo biloba, or it's vinpocetine, or huperzine, or all these different leaves that, if you actually break it down biomolecularly, you're like, oh, it actually slows very slowly, but if you eat it over a lifetime, it does make a difference in the final 5 years, like the decaying of neurons, specifically neurons. And you're like, oh, that it helps with memory loss, helps with other things. Phosphatidylserine, it's like this weird fat, and they're like, how did they know? They knew that people were kind of a little more clear when they had it. They found out it's in the phospholipid bilayer, primarily of neurons, and all that stuff. And you go, they knew it, and then we found out why. But there is something very real to know it. So okay, sure. Let's say you write it off the chance. Maybe you might be right. I don't know. I looked up one thing, and I've done LSD. I haven't done psychedelics since 2017. I think Alan Watts had the quote of, when you get the message, hang up the phone. I got the message. It set me on the right path. Blah blah blah. I don't really need it anymore. I don't, knock on wood. I feel like I don't need it anymore. One thing I've never done is DMT or ayahuasca, but that's not even the point I'm trying to make. Is how they knew to take just this one root, right, that had the psychoactive molecule in it. You could write that off as chance, enough. There's a funny meme where it's like, hey, shout out to all those cavemen who are like, hey, is this mushroom edible? Eats it. Okay, no, Bob ate it, vomited out blood, died immediately. What about this mushroom? It's kind of tart. This mushroom's okay. It's like, hey, shout out to all those unnamed cavemen. So you could write it off as just chance, right? Hungry, bipedal carbon-based life forms. All right. But the thing about, and I may be shaky on this, but I don't think I am. The thing about ayahuasca is DMT lasts for 15 minutes. Ayahuasca lasts for several hours. They were able to find that out by you eat this other root in conjunction with it. It has an MOA inhibitor, monoamine oxidase inhibitor. I don't remember what that shit does. It's necessary to, your body doesn't break it down immediately. They paired those two together like 6,000 years ago in the rainforest where there isn't exactly a limited amount of things to eat. And if you ask them, they'll say, oh, the plants tell you. I'm like, but that's God. That's God speaking through a different language. Things like that. I'm like, and it was like the most sacred ritual. How did they know to eat those two things together? How do you know? And it's just little things like that I do look at as, oh, there it is. There's another great quote I love is, I prayed to God and awaited his answer. I, a fool, was waiting on words until I realized he was speaking in flowers that day. And I often use it for the podcast. In my mind, I go, I'm asking God for money, 2020, so I can move out of my parents' house, get a better apartment, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, what about other things? I moved up home. I'm closer to family. All the cousins and stuff are having babies. Mom and dad are healthy. I'm sober 2 years. And it's like, oh, I, a fool, was looking for dollar signs. And God's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? So I've lost 45 pounds in the last year. What about this? And I'm like, oh, he's talking to you in all the languages. So why wouldn't it be that? Why wouldn't it be a lesson about trigonosis or the gold exodus or monoamine oxidase inhibitors? Which ultimately then comes down to, eventually, the only reason you wouldn't take those as signs of God is because on some level you don't want him to be real. And if you're an atheist, you might say, even that analysis is wrong. Perhaps. You might, I don't know. You do reach a point where you go, maybe I can sum up my thoughts better than this. Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan, the New Year's thing where he's sitting there and the famous scene, the confetti's dropping on him and he's just drunk and just depressed. Like, there's a meme I saw last New Year's Eve, and it was like, I know that there is really no such thing as New Year's. It's just another cold winter day and nothing will change. Okay. Someone else posted that meme and they used AI to make Lieutenant Dan smiling. And he goes, I know that this is just another random cold winter day, but we as a society all agree that it's a new start to new beginnings and to make ourselves better. Those are both the same thing. One person chose to believe, you don't believe in Santa anymore, but as adults, we all go, New Year's resolution. Like, that's magical. The fact that we're like, this is amazing. It's a new year. You can look at it and say, it's a cold, depressing day in January. Or you can say, yeah, I know that. But we're all doing the New Year's resolution. All the gyms are offering things and going, hey, come in and start. That's beautiful. At a certain point, if you don't want to see beauty, you won't. And so I don't know where I was going with that whole tangent, but that's where I come down. It is, if you don't want it to be, then it won't be.
Well, I'm out of time anyway, but man, this has been fun. I love shooting the shit about this stuff.
Yeah, we went an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, all right.
I made myself a promise that I was going to keep the day shows to an hour, because otherwise I'll keep going and going, and then nobody watches them because they see it's like 6 hours long, and they
they go fuck off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd rather just make 10 more appointments to do 10 more shows than do a 10-hour straight show.
No, 100%.
But the one and only Tommy Carrigan, everybody, please go give him a follow. He's on Twitter. The link is in the description to his website. Check out his podcast. I've been on it a few times. It's a lot of fun. We got to do it again, too, with Tom and EM. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody. I will be back on Monday with Alex Eisenberg, German historian. Amazing mind. We're going to be talking about the rise of Nazism and Islamofascism. So looking forward to talking to you guys then. Tommy, thank you very, very much. We will talk soon.
Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, send me the link.
Mm-hmm.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do. So help me God.